York's classic rock, Q1043.
I say good morning to Shannon Vick of Berkeley Heights, and we are just meeting for the first time on Zoom, but we are sisters because we are both breast cancer survivors. So yes, it's a sisterhood, right, Shannon?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So Shannon, tell us your story. You're very, very young. It's unusual, but not so unusual these days for a young woman to be diagnosed with breast cancer. So first of all, welcome and tell us your story, please.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely becoming far too common nowadays to hear of young people that are being diagnosed. I was 33 when I first got diagnosed, and I was pregnant with my fourth child, and felt a lump, thought it was just, from the pregnancy. And the doctor was like, nope, we got to take care of that. And I started treatment right away and happened to give birth to a beautiful baby girl.
Wait a minute.
And
How far along in your pregnancy did this happen?
I was 27 weeks.
Wow. All right. So you were more than midway through.
Right.
All
I
right.
was
So
just at the point
let's
where
yeah.
I was at the point where everyone thinks, you're smooth sailing from there on out.
Okay, this is a very emotional thing. I mean, when you feel the lump, it is emotional. I did not have the same experience because I didn't even feel a lump. But what did you think when you felt the lump? And did you regularly self-examine once a month or what?
No, I was just sore. I was fairly pregnant, and I just happened to be sore. I was kind of massaging myself in the shower, and oh, there was a lump, and then it was still there the next day and the next after that. And so when I went for my regular monthly checkup with the OB, I told him about it, and he did an exam and said, nope, that's not just a normal lump, we got to get it checked out.
So what happened then? And did you have a wait? Because all of that, the worst part to me is the waiting, the not knowing, because once you know and you sit down with your doctor and you get good guidance, you're in a whole other headspace than that unknown terror.
It was pretty bad because it was a Thursday, so there wasn't a whole lot that anyone could do because you were getting into a weekend. So I had a scheduled appointment by the next day with a breast surgeon who did a biopsy, but I didn't get the results back until the following Wednesday. So, I mean, it
Oh
was like
God.
pure terror for the next, few days. And I had three other kids under the age of 5. So, that was, I mean, I was barely holding it together. And then I got the call and totally just didn't expect to hear the news, you have breast cancer. And all I could think about was that unborn baby, and, whether or not I was going to get to meet her. Your mind goes to all the worst case scenarios and how my kids were barely going to remember me because I wouldn't, be here for them. And then I met with the doctor, and all that kind of like, she was like, no, you're going to be fine.
So how soon did you meet with the doctor? You get the diagnosis on Wednesday, you get the call on Wednesday. When did you actually get in to meet?
So I actually, by Friday, I was at the oncologist, and by the following Tuesday, I was already starting chemo.
What stage was it?
So that's the tricky part with me. They called it like stage 1, stage 2, but they couldn't do all the regular testing that they do for a normal person who walks in the door and has breast cancer. So they didn't do, the lymph nodes and all that stuff. The only thing they could tell was through an ultrasound that it didn't look like it had spread to the lymph nodes. Unfortunately, after the fact, I went through chemo, and then I had a bilateral mastectomy after I gave birth. And at that time, they determined that it had in fact gone to the lymph nodes. But because I was pregnant, they couldn't do a lot of the testing, and they didn't want to do any surgeries or anything like that until after the baby was born.
But they actually did chemo while you were pregnant?
Yep.
And what was that like? What did that do to the pregnancy? And what did that do? I mean, in terms of how you felt, because here you are with three other children and you're more than midway through the pregnancy and it's chemo.
It was pretty terrifying. Fortunately, my doctor's office actually had another woman who was about the same age as me and had just gone through the same exact thing with her. For her, it was her first pregnancy. And they put me in touch with her, and she was like my lifeline as to like, she already had the baby. So, I knew that you could get to the end and the baby could be born and be healthy. And my OB told me, look, you worry about you, I'll worry about the baby. And he was so supportive. And basically, they said at that stage of the game, the baby had developed enough that really it was just my body was going to be filtering everything and she was going to be fine. They just were hoping that she wasn't going to be born, too close to when I had a treatment. So it wound up that they induced me 2 weeks after my last chemotherapy. Um, and, I gave birth to her. She was like a week early, uh, healthy, and now she's 8 years old.
Wow. So, but how did you feel? Did this, I mean, because you're exhausted when you're pregnant anyway, you're exhausted when you're the mom of three young children. What were the physical effects?
I was very fortunate because I had a very strong support system. So I was good for the first like day or two after chemo. And then you got to like, I would have them on Tuesdays, my treatment. So by Thursday, Friday, I was starting to feel kind of crappy. So my mom would take off Thursday and Friday and she would come and take care of the kids. And I would basically sleep Thursday, Friday. And then by Saturday, I kind of felt better. And then the weeks in between, I had 2 weeks in between each treatment. And those weeks I felt okay. So the kids actually kept me going because I didn't have time to sit and feel sorry for myself or let myself, feel crappy. And I ate because I was pregnant. And so I was like, well, I have to eat for the baby. And so I feel like it actually made me take better care of myself because I forced myself to have that meal or, that little snack that maybe I would have been like, I don't feel like it today. So I think that it actually was what kept me going was having the kids and having to get up and having to be mom every day.
I'm speaking with Shannon Vick of Berkeley Heights. She was diagnosed with breast cancer while she was pregnant with her fourth child. She was 33 at the time. We're 8 years past that now. How are you? And you got past that 5 year mark. How are you now?
Well, unfortunately, at the 5 year mark, I was re-diagnosed. It had
Oh,
spread to my pelvic bone. There was actually only one spot, and my doctor happened to say, you know what, let's just check it out. And they found it. So at 5 years, I got the news that you really didn't want to hear because, I was waiting to celebrate that, like I had made it past that milestone. And unfortunately, the celebration had to wait. So I spent 3 years on one treatment, one protocol, which according to my doctor is great because what people probably don't realize is with metastatic breast cancer, the medicines work until they don't work. So to put it in a perspective, it's kind of like when people take antibiotics and then all of a sudden that antibiotic doesn't work for them anymore. It's the same type of thing. So in January, they switched my protocols and because they weren't working anymore. And I did a round of radiation on my pelvic bone. And we thought everything was great. And then in July, the cancer had spread to a few new spots on my vertebrae. So we changed meds again, and my doctor's very optimistic that they're going to work. And there's some new medications coming out in the next year and a half. And he's like, you're going to go on those and, you're just going to keep on living.
that's really, really rough. You did not have to go through chemo again. They just put you on the med.
It's a chemo pill now. So
Oh, okay.
the other medications were hormone therapies.
Right.
And, you know, the one worked for a very long, I mean, 3 years was a long time for it to work as well as it did. And now, you know, this is a chemo pill, which he feels will keep it under control.
How's your attitude? You seem very, very positive. A lot of people describe living with breast cancer or any cancer, well, not any cancer, but breast cancer specifically, as like living with a chronic illness.
Yes, that is exactly how my doctor described it. He said, right now, the way things are, and because we caught it as early as we did, he said, you know, you have a low level of, you know, disease in your body. And basically, we just jump from medication to medication as needed and keep it under control. And that is why it is so important that research keeps happening, because the research is what brings these new drugs around and keeps people like me living a long, normal life. I mean, overall, I feel well. So,
And you look great. And this is why I'm asking you, please make note. You can join these Making Stride walks today in Central Park, Midland Beach on Staten Island, Jones Beach, Flushing Meadow, Orchard Beach, also in Purchase, also Woodbury Common, Point Pleasant Beach, that's happening today. Parsippany, that Making Strides walk is happening today. And then if you can't make those, there's one at MetLife Stadium the last Sunday, actually last Saturday of the month, and in Middlesex County at Middlesex County College Sunday, a week from today. Real quickly, does breast cancer run in your family, Shannon?
no, that's the crazy part. It does not run in my family. I do not have the BRCA gene. I was like the poster child for everything, you know, that you could do to not get breast cancer. And here I am.
And this is why you have to do the self-examinations. Do not miss your appointment for your mammogram and sonogram. Do not put it off, because like in my case, I did not feel a lump. I had put off the mammogram. And by the way, if you put it off, it could take another 2 to 3 months for them to fit you in, because you know you haven't been diagnosed. And it was the last thing that I thought would happen to me, that I would have breast cancer, because like Shannon, it didn't run in the family. I've been a marathon runner. I try to eat right. I do drink wine, I have to admit that. And that is, by the way, is a risk factor, is drinking. But you just don't know. And 1 in 8 women over the course of a lifetime is going to get breast cancer. But the good news, as Shannon pointed out and I pointed out, if you have breast cancer, it's really seen as a chronic illness today. You can beat it. You can take the fear out of breast cancer. If you want more information on Making Strides walks, you can Google Making Strides or go to the American Cancer Association. And coming up next, I didn't realize the Salvation Army is a warrior when it comes to sex trafficking. And we're going to be talking with a woman who's on the front lines of that war, coming up next. Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.